Isaac Adai, who is a local entrepreneur and professor from TSU, who is currently teaching at Vanderbilt. And he is going to join the administration. He's actually already on board as someone with a focus on small business and entrepreneurship, and will also be a liaison to the minority business community. So excited to have him on board. Kedron Turner has joined what we hope is an invigorated Office of Neighborhoods and Community Engagement. He will be a constituent services coordinator, so we are hoping to enhance what is already happening. Isaac has just walked in, so that's great. Yeah, Isaac, say hi to everybody. That's Isaac Adai. And one thing that I will note is Isaac is also of Ghanaian heritage, and we've got an exciting couple of events coming up with, is it a partnership with Nashville SC?
Nashville SC and U.S. Soccer
are doing, and it's the Ghanaian national team that's coming, right, to play at Geodis. So Isaac is going to be directly involved in helping welcome a contingent from Ghana, which will be very exciting too, as we continue to see soccer be a beautiful game with global roots taking hold in Nashville in even stronger ways. Kedron Turner is going to support the work that we've already got Aaron Williams doing with Hub Nashville. So excited to be bridging into the world of constituent services. It's part of our overall approach to customer-focused government. When I was with Metro Council on Tuesday for the first meeting of the term, we were very excited to have the appointment of Dr. Brian T. Fisher to the Nashville General Hospital Board. That appointment was successfully approved, as was Mark Wynn to the Civilian Review Board. Wanted to mention that we are going to recommend Jill Fitchherd to return as director there. I know the Cooper administration, on the guidance of, I believe, both Metro Legal and Human Resources, did post a position because that is technically a new department. Director Fitchherd has reapplied, and we will be recommending her to return in a newly reconstituted Civilian Review Board. Mark Wynn was appointed and confirmed by the council on Tuesday, giving us a full 7-member newly reconstituted board. They will meet on October 27th in advance of a state-imposed deadline of October 29th to get that off the ground as a new board. And we will hope to hit that deadline with all those moving parts, and then we will be working with the new CRB, MMPD, and making sure with Metro Legal we have the appropriate MOUs in place to allow everything to continue as permitted under state law. We also discussed with council a few of the other things we've been working on. Excited to have new transit service that just started with fall service changes, including a lot of routes increasing service to 1:15 a.m. as we advance the project of frequent transit network. That was money that I worked closely with WeGo, some of my colleagues on the old Metro Council, including Colby Sledge, but also outgoing chair of Budget and Finance, Kevin Roten, to make sure they were in the FY24 budget. So excited to see the express bus service start to Nashville SC games. People have been enjoying that service as well. And it's great to be working on a project of increased access to a major community asset at this point. We've mentioned too, we've got a $2 million grant for violence interruption that will advance our community safety agenda. Appreciative of Mayor Cooper's program on community safety. This should help us reduce gun violence in Nashville, which we know we have seen just general concerning trends with gun violence as we continue to have an epidemic of guns stolen from vehicles. And I am glad to be doing this as part of our overall transparency initiatives, meeting with you all as many Fridays as we can going forward, and happy to take any questions.
Okay.
Go ahead. Steve, you're next.
In July, I did a report regarding the roofie problem in Nashville at bars, specifically downtown.
Yep.
Do you feel there should be some type of citywide protocol, maybe in partnership with hospitals, so that if these people want to get tested for these types of drugs, they're more easily accessible and available?
So I know there is a safe bar program that is underway. Happy to work with the Director of Nightlife's office to see what else needs to be done there. We have already started work, and one of the roles we're going to try to identify is sort of quality of life and downtown liaison. We may wind up just having somebody who also is a liaison with the mayor's office and the Director of Nightlife and the Office of Nightlife. I want to get more information about how successful we've seen the program of the Safe Bar, if it's being implemented well, if it does seem to be effective, but it is also one of those, I mean, I would call it at the intersection of public health and public safety, and so we'll be exploring that because we obviously want anybody who is in our entertainment district or frankly at any bar or restaurant in Nashville to make sure that they know they go in there and can trust the environment.
And how do you plan to work with city partners to address the fentanyl crisis? I've done more than a dozen reports on specifically a little girl, Ariel Rose, who died from fentanyl toxicity. Obviously, there's more happening. We
have already, in this week's briefing with key Metro department heads, I actually asked Dr. Wright at Metro Public Health Department specifically about our progress on the opioid epidemic, which is obviously having an impact here in Nashville. They mentioned that we have actually had some funding availability that they are going to use to try to make additional headway there. I've also spoken with one of the state commissioners about partnerships. I think this is actually a significant opportunity for state and local partnership to get state funding, make sure we've got appropriate supplies of Narcan, and generally treat it as one of our current public health crises. So we're, based on the briefing I got from Dr. Wright, I think we are moving in the right direction, but we want to see progress over not just the rest of this year. I mean, what we heard was that we are currently year-to-date flat on deaths from opioids, but my question was, how do we bend that curve down so that 2023 is more successful in preventing loss of life thanks to fentanyl and other parts of the opioid crisis? Steve?
There was a piece in the Tennessee Tribune that was critical of the diversity efforts of the administration when it comes to filling out your office. Would you care to respond to that? And when do you think, I know you're still filling out the office, when do you think is the right time to make a benchmark of what the office is doing in terms of diversity efforts?
So, when that piece came out, we had been in office all of 7 days. I think from previous reporting, it is not our goal to rush the hiring process. There is incredibly little time between the election, certification of results, the swearing-in process, and being able to even meaningfully hire staff. So the staff we started with were people that we knew had an opportunity to stay from the Cooper administration, people like Kristen Wilson, people like Sam Wilcox, people like Kathy Floyd Buggs, and we are excited that they have chosen to stay. We also brought in Marjorie Pomeroy Wallace and Bob Mendez. We have not had a large number of new hires yet. There are 37 FTEs, I believe, in the mayor's budget. And I would say at the 100-day mark, we'll come back and revisit it. But that's also, there was a sort of ironic timing that the article came out. They did not ask us for comment. They did not ask us for hire announcements or anything like that. And it was just, it's interesting that Kedron and Isaac have come on board basically in the space of the release of that article. We're going to have hires that I hope keep us consistent with outlooks that we know are in inclusivics, and I think the conversations we're having and things that we can't yet announce because some of the people we're recruiting are coming in from professional contexts where they have to give appropriate notice or make travel decisions and so forth.
Mayor, question
Yeah.
on, back to the $2 million grant towards the violence interruption. Have you got a chance to kind of look at to where those funds could potentially go? How do you see those being used?
No, and we've got Ron Johnson and Mike Lacey in the office are still part of the community safety process, and we'll be visiting with them about how those work. So far, we have seen some of the community safety office's work go to programs like The Village, which are groups of nonprofits that are working on these things. I have a feeling this will go to implementation work with a partner, but we need to get a full briefing on how the grant will be applied.
When obviously a new administration comes in, there's obviously questions about if leadership's going to change. Have you had any conversations surrounding the leadership of the fire department or the police department, whether or not leadership in those realms could potentially change moving forward?
I do not anticipate making any major changes with leadership for public safety.
And have you had a chance to have a at-length conversation with Chief Drake, I guess, about kind of the crime issue that we've continued to cover?
Give me more details. What crime issue?
Just in terms of just the amount of shootings. I mean, obviously this week the 12-year-old was shot. They don't believe it was targeted, but there, as far as we know, there's been no one in custody yet in relation to that. And then that was the same morning we covered another shooting on Murfreesboro Pike that happened to be a shootout in the parking lot, and just someone who was just going in and out of the store was struck by it. So more specifically, the string of gun violence.
Yeah, so Chief Drake has spoken with me and with Kristen Wilson as well about, I mean, the department is, I'd say, as concerned as anybody about the gun violence situation in particular. That's why I think it's important that we got the violence interruption funding. They've been very supportive of some of the work that's gone on that lets them focus resources as well. The co-response model that we've incorporated that pairs mental health professionals with response to make sure that we are de-escalating appropriately, and then the alternative response model also frees people up to be focused on crime and safety. I think if you look at the history of where state legislation has led us, though, Chief Drake has been part of a group of law enforcement officers that have been, I think, correctly concerned about relaxation of state laws that allow for unsecured weapons and vehicles to be an issue. I mean, they know that there are simply more guns out there, and I think I will say, one of the parts of the transition briefings that I think is really important is their staffing model, I believe, will by next year hit the headcount threshold, so we should be in a stable place with personnel that is more than we've had, I think, at any point in Nashville's history. And one of the parts of the job that was most exciting was on day one, the very first thing I did after being sworn in by Judge Briley was coming down and sign certificates for officers in Session 104 of the Police Academy. I joined Chief Drake out there just this week to welcome those officers as recruits onto the force, and he's got a staffing model that should have us at fully staffed by next year.
Kind of on that note, what would you tell those officers? I mean, when we speak to them and we're covering these stories, especially overnight, they go from one shooting to another or one crime to another, and they're just exhausted. I mean, is this part of, I guess, the relief on the way for those officers to get back to just active policing?
Well, I'm not sure your characterization of those particular incidents is exactly how life as an officer works. I mean, they go through the training process, and yes, they may be responding to one incident, but we have a force that is significant enough that very rarely if a shooting occurs in one area or any kind of crime occurs in one area, we're broken up into a group of precincts, and they have flex units, they have the entertainment district unit. There are a bunch of different ways that policing occurs. We're also fortunate to have organizations like Box 55, where if there is something that is occurring that keeps officers on an incident response that is prolonged, that we do have a rehabilitation process for them, just like the 2nd Avenue bombing, the Covenant school shooting, these major episodes that really do produce exhaustion. We have a whole rehabilitation network out there that supports the officers while they're doing that. So it's an organization I've supported the entire time I have been in public service, and I think the officers know when they're going through training, the occasion of the graduation is not only serious and solemn for those reasons, but I think it's also one of celebration because they know they're coming in to perform one of the city's most important tasks. Stephen, now come over there in just a second.
Can you explain your thinking on bringing Kevin Crumbo back? Why and how long do you expect him to be in that role?
So the thinking here is, it's like the Tribune article. There are some rules where the level of specialization, the skill set required, isn't just common where any member of the city could just come in and step in and do it. Kevin has experience within the department. I think he is trusted and liked within the department, and I think he is going to be involved in at least advising on the search for his replacement. He does not intend to be a permanent director. I think this is where I would say, looking at his skill set, looking at the trust and confidence of what he's been. I worked closely with him when I was on the Metro Council when he was finance director, and we built a good working relationship. And I think even in moments where I disagreed with his choices or choices that the administration was making, I had full confidence in the overall skill set that he brought. The search process, we expect, will be like some of the things that HR has already been engaged in. They are, I believe, in the closing stages of a permanent director for general services. I've spoken with Director Hall multiple times about some of those moments of executive searches, and I think this one we're going to spend enough time on to make sure that we get somebody who can last for the full term. And I would expect that we will at least start the preparation for the FY25 budget cycle with Kevin, if council agrees, and then my hope is that we will be spending a lot of time through the end of the year identifying a successor.
There is cities that they are not as welcome for the Hispanic community as Nashville is. Do you have a specific message for the Spanish community?
Well, one thing that I've been excited about, and this was work that we were engaged in when I was still on the Metro Council, is we have continued to advance things like closed captioning. We're adding languages there. We have had translators coming. We're trying to make Metro government more accessible to the Hispanic community. One thing I was very proud of as we were campaigning is we had translated communications into all of Spanish, Kurdish, and Arabic. It's work we need to continue doing, but I would say not just to the Hispanic community, but to any non-English language communities or our Native and New Americans communities. We are going to build a good office of New and Indigenous Americans to make sure that language access piece is continuous and ensures accessibility to Metro. Yeah. Kathy?
Given some recent news on infrastructure aspects of the East Bank around Oracle that maybe weren't anticipated, how does that affect the city's plans for roadways moving forward?
I'll need some specifics here.
Sure, yeah. The Nashville Business Journal reported that there might be some consideration of potentially like freezing sections of the interstate.
I know in the agreement there was a discussion of ending the dead end at Cleveland Street and making that a continuous pathway. And there is a question of underpass and overpass. I'm sure that NDOT and TDOT, along with our office, where Bob Mendez is in the role of Chief Development Officer, are going to be exploring that. I'd say right now it's probably too soon to determine what the impact will be, including on whether or not there's an impact on Metro's expected capital spend. But people are aware of the issues, and we just have to figure out where the obligations are to be able to answer any other questions of impact. Milt?
As I know you know, there are many tech-related initiatives bubbling up in Nashville. A number of formal initiatives have been taken in Knoxville, Chattanooga, and Memphis. 4 years ago, well ahead of ChatGPT, the Brookings Institution named Nashville as a fourth-tier candidate for potential leadership in that field. But without focusing on any particular technology or data or anything, and with the whole smart cities idea in the background, have you spotted some opportunities to take an over-the-horizon look or a closer look at how Nashville metro government should innovate in the use of technology, how to bring these multitude of initiatives under, not to control them, but to ensure flow of information and collaboration opportunities?
I guess it's good timing for your question right after this. I'm sitting down with ITS. We'll be talking to Keith Durbin, the director, about some of that as we get a briefing on current status. You probably remember Connected Nashville, which was the last time I've seen a comprehensive assessment of not just Metro's overall capabilities, but how to kind of engage citizens with it. There are a few things in your question. You mentioned ChatGPT. You may have already seen the Nashville Chamber's annual celebration has actually got a focus on AI. This year, if my schedule allows, I'm actually interested in attending that to see what the presentation has to offer. One of the reasons Isaac is here, you may be familiar with his role in Pivot Technologies, but that is sort of like Nashville Software School, but looking for opportunities specifically for communities of color and technology. We want to make sure that remains a part of the conversation. And I would say my background in software and technology has left me pretty well prepared overall to survey the landscape, but I think I'm interested in exploring with ITS where they feel like Metro's overall capabilities are with regard to what progress has and hasn't been made with Connected Nashville. It's one of the many plans we're kind of reviewing to say, are there things here that are still worth doing that we can accelerate? Is there anything that needs to be added to this? But I also think about it in terms of, so there's a couple different ways to look at it. One is the opportunities. I think there are a lot of opportunities for Metro to be more effective with deployment of technology. There's also the risk. You've probably also seen that Cruise has automated vehicles operating in Nashville at this point. We don't have a lot of regulatory authority in that space after recent state legislation. I think that is, I would put that in the category of it might be an opportunity, but it might also be associated with risk. I think AI offers some of that too. I think one of the ongoing challenges we're going to be confronting has to do with security. We'll be signing a proclamation here presently for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And I think that's going to be something that not only do we need to have important policies within Metro, but we do need to keep ensuring that the general public is well informed. On the other side of that, again, is an opportunity is making sure we are continuing to put pressure on the digital divide. We know that there are still a lot of households that don't have sufficient broadband access or access to devices, and I've talked to Comcast. I think there are a lot of additional opportunities with major partners as Nashville has emerged as a tech-focused city to ensure access on an equity basis to make sure that families are getting there. I think the Metro Schools initiative that got laptops to students was important, but as we continue to change things like WeGo's fare structure, we need to make sure that we're keeping in mind who has access to technology and who doesn't.
We have time for one or two more.
Yep.
For folks in Nashville who are unhoused, what's the thing that needs to be addressed first to get them off the streets and into their homes?
So the thing, I mean, I would say housing is the first thing that anybody who is unhoused needs access to, but a lot of times we also think about the service model. I think we're looking at early 2024 for completion of the permanent supportive housing project that is just here north of City Hall. That is going to be critically important facility for the people that are hardest to house, which is typically people who have chronic or severe, mental health issues, addiction issues, have a difficult time, even potentially with disability, participating fully in the economy, and may have difficulty with market-based rent as well, and stable housing. So I think that's going to be critically important. We're advancing on the project of the $50 million in American Rescue Plan Act funding that was allocated specifically to mitigate homelessness. That is broken up into trying to induce more permanent supportive housing with private sector providers of housing, also offering opportunities for rapid rehousing, and then a service model that, again, supports those challenges. So I think with unprecedented investment, I'm cautiously optimistic that we can make progress with a dedicated Office of Homeless Services. Let's go to the back. Yeah.
Perfect. I just reading about the possibility to change the high school time to start in Metro Nashville Public School. Can you give us your opinion on that?
Yeah, this is something that I've heard about from the parent community for a long time, but you see it increasingly. In fact, with a pediatric neurologist in our house, a very recent issue of Neurology magazine highlighted the science underlying recommendations to move past a place where we have the earliest high school start times. As I mentioned, we're meeting with Dr. Battle today. I'm sure this will come up in our conversation. But this isn't the kind of thing that you just flip a switch and say, we're starting at 7:30 now, or we're starting at 8 o'clock now. There are a lot of logistical elements that would have to come into that. You'd have to look at impact on elementary and middle school start times. You'd have to look at impact on students who are either participating in athletics or may have professional commitments while they're students. I know that many families have students that participate in family business, and so we just want to make sure we understand the impact. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we got to a place where if the conversation advanced, you would look at a pilot scenario just to understand all of that impact. So I would not expect that to be a year one effort. I think it's going to be a multi-year effort where you start with the impact analysis and then slowly look at an implementation plan.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.